Hello, welcome to Sideways. This week we're talking about something that you'd have thought I might have developed with these introductions over a period of time as I've done more of them and become more familiar with the format. But despite that, once again this week I've left myself virtually no time and I've forgotten most of what we spoke about on the episode. The two things I can definitely remember are that we spoke about how a part of a hat resembled a baby hedgehog and debated the wisdom of taking a cobra to a party. But other than that, my mind's a bit of a blank. Building confidence in recovery.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Christ is risen.
He has risen, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we're not being blasphemous, are we? Doing a bit of recording.
No, I think that's taken from the Anglican mass. I think you're supposed to say, when I say Christ is risen, which is presumptuous of me because I'm kind of taking the role of the celebrant there.
Okay, yeah.
I think the response is Christ will come again.
Oh, okay.
Right, so should we have another go at that?
Okay, yeah, we'll try it again. Go on then.
Christ is risen.
Christ will come again. Is that right?
I think we've done that justice, and I don't think that's
so.
Blasphemous. Although I'm not sure if I should be impersonating an Anglican celebrant. That might be blasphemous.
Are they called celebrants? They're not bishops or anything, are they? I thought celebrant was part of the humanist organisation.
Maybe it is. Well, I'm impersonating the vicar.
Yeah, that's it.
Or the priest.
Yeah.
What else can we call them?
Lots of things, but we don't want to go into that.
Bloke in a big skirt.
Anyway, yeah, I think we are drifting. Really. But it is Easter Day, and we are, but we're still cracking on, aren't we? We're still,
like the true professionals we are.
We're troopers.
Yeah.
As well as
Have you had any
professionals.
chocolate yet?
Sorry?
You had any chocolate yet?
No, I haven't as yet. No. Although I've had a video call from my grandson this morning, but he was in the bath, so his mum had to hold the phone while he talked to me. He was in the bath because he had some Easter egg shaped bath bombs, and he wanted to crack on and try one out. So he's had an early bath, the lad.
That's not bad. I quite enjoy a morning bath. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, I never have baths. They're a nuisance. Never like them.
I mean, a morning bath always strikes me as wonderfully decadent.
Is it? Oh, right, okay, yeah.
I think so. You know, I mean, particularly if you're having one when everyone else is at work.
Oh, well, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, that's it. But on a Sunday,
you're sort of sitting in the bath and listening to the radio and drinking a cup of tea.
I can sort of get that, but I don't like baths generally. But anyway, it's a whole different area we could discuss.
Well, what would you hang on?
Oh, okay.
What would you do then if you got an Easter egg bath bomb?
I'd probably re-gift it.
Okay, noted.
Anyway, well, I want to. Shall I go on to what my notes are about for this week?
Yeah, if you must.
We're drifting, aren't we? Badly, yeah. It's on. They're headed. The notes are headed self-confidence, but more specifically, I wanted to look at the boosting of self-confidence in recovery.
Oh, okay.
I think it's very relevant. I mean, most people in recovery sort of began struggling with their level of confidence long before they developed an addiction disorder, really, or before it came into fruition. And I think, in fact, and I was probably one of those people that drinking or drug use was a coping mechanism for low self-confidence, a way to feel more comfortable and capable in life. And I remember this, that the feeling of when you go into recovery, when you stop drinking and stop taking drugs, it's suddenly your low self-confidence returns. That false self-confidence that you were giving yourself with substances disappears, and so it can become a trigger to relapse because you don't like the way you're feeling. So it's an important and relevant subject. So before we start, now there was a story regarding a rescued baby hedgehog that turned out to be a hat bobble, wasn't there? Bobble for it. No, the reason I'm mentioning it because it does feed into. We like a story like this, don't we?
We do seem to have fallen into a rhythm of animal-related stories that turn out to be something entirely other.
It's almost a feature on its own, isn't it? And in fact, I have got another one for next week, so I'm already lined up on that one. But the reason I mentioned that also is because I know you sent me a little link to it, but you were one of 3 people that sent links to exactly the same story to me, so people are understanding what we're about on this. Yes,
wow,
all saying that's a cute story, especially the little picture of the hat bobble beside a little tray of cat food. So they're trying to get it back to health. And
do you think it didn't seem as if it had eaten much of it? No,
it hadn't moved a great deal.
No. And I did have to say, when I looked at it, I thought that does really look like a hedgehog.
It does look like a hedgehog, but I mean, I think the touch, if you use the sense of touch, you'd soon find out it's not a hedgehog. I know that baby hedgehogs, their spikes aren't so...
aren't they?
They're not quite as firm as when they get into adulthood.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
But unless you're used to having a bobble hat that's got a very spiky bobble on it, then you wouldn't know. I don't see the need for one.
Or if you were wearing very, very thick sort of gardening gloves to pick it up, and you might not have noticed its softness.
Yeah, I didn't. The story didn't go into great detail, but it was a cute little thing, cute little story, I thought. Another headline that caught my notice, which is less cute, is about this YouTuber, and he was arrested for allegedly supplying snake venom as a party drug. Okay, now this is wrong on many levels. There's a guy in India, and he was arrested under the Wildlife Act about cruelty to snakes, not taking into account that he was supplying this venom. And apparently he took when he was raided, he'd taken 9 cobras, live cobras. Not because there's a beer called Cobra, isn't there? You could take a couple of bottles of that to a party.
I bet you could have done 9 cobras in your heyday, couldn't you? Without any trouble.
Breakfast. Yeah. He took 9 live cobras to a party and milked them there, and it was supplying, and people were taking it. I mean, as a party drug. Yeah. I don't know
did it say anything about what sort of impact having cobra venom has on you? I mean, no, is it an upper or a downer?
I can't imagine it's too great. Can you?
I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, if someone said to me, "Hey, do you want to take some venom?" I think that would be an immediate red flag for me. I don't know about you.
Well, yes, but back in the day, you probably thought if there's drugs flying around, you think they'll have a go on that, have a go on that, see how it works. But I mean, the world's a seriously messed up place, isn't it? I mean, I think
I might have drawn the line at venom.
I know when you and I used to go to parties, we thought it was quite racy, quite daring to take a Watney's party 4 with us, didn't we? People
these days, people are milking cobras.
Taking live snakes to a party. That's not good, is it?
Well, you had a live snake.
Sorry?
You had a live snake. Did you ever milk it for venom?
No, because it wasn't venomous. Pythons aren't venomous. They just crush stuff. I used to get bitten by them on a couple of occasions, but you don't have to go to hospital or anything. It's just one of those things. It hurts a bit.
Did you ever take him to a party and ask if anyone wanted to be crushed? I expect some people would quite get off on that, wouldn't they? Yeah. It's like I used to quite like having a Chinese burn. I find that quite stimulating.
You like that?
Maybe I would have quite enjoyed being crushed by your snake.
Well, it depends what sort of party you're going to, I suppose. But yeah, I don't.
It's taking bondage to another level, isn't it?
It's really, yeah. But we thought it. I mean, I used to take sometimes. I thought it was quite daring to take a bottle of Wicked Lady. Do you remember that Wicked Lady that my dad's company used to produce? So we used to our cellar was like an alcohol warehouse. There's loads of it in there. And so, I used to take a bottle of that. So I used to convince my dad that I was doing a bit of marketing for the company by taking the. I mean, no one ever liked it. It was horrible stuff, but
but it got you into a party.
It got me into a party. Yeah.
Which was probably the same rationale that people use when they were taking a bottle of Cinzano.
Well, exactly that. Yeah, you pop it on the side, no one drinks it, you get stuck into the good stuff that other people have bought.
Exactly.
Anyway, we don't want to go into glamorizing that side of thing, but I want to look at a few little tips, really, or what you need to know. And I want to discuss these points that came up in the research about how to boost your self-confidence.
Okay.
There's a couple of pointers just before you get into the actual tips, but the first point that came up was about your viewpoint and your perspective can deeply impact your self-confidence. So your ability to self-project effectively. Mm-hmm. And there's a number of ways that you can start to shift your perspective. And I'll come on to that. And also come on to behaviors as well too, and the things you do when you're alone. And the things you do when you're around others as well, they can all impact your level of self-confidence. So
we're not going to go into all the things we do when we're alone, are we?
No, we're not. And I think some of them would. Just a discreet veil is drawn over some of those things, and it's not necessarily linked to self-esteem. But I think it's important to remember, just before we look at the various bits, that even as you start to build your self-confidence, I remember this as well, and in early recovery, you're not going to feel confident all the time. If you start to crack on, it's not a linear return you're going to get on the efforts you put in. You're going to get times where you feel less confident than others. So you've got to remember that, and it's not a strict science which is going to produce results straight away or in a consistent manner. So it will take a little bit of effort and a little bit of time.
Yeah, and on that point, it's worth bearing in mind that emotional resilience is easy to find when you don't need it. It's when you're low in confidence that you need to find your resilience. So, and
it's tougher. It's tougher.
It is tougher, and I think it's all right for you to say, there are going to be times that I'm going to struggle, and I might feel like it's too difficult or whatever, but you'll get through them.
You can, but you make choices, don't you? You can make choices as to how you think about yourself and how you think about what's happening around you. But I think a big point really is the compassion. You're going to have to be compassionate with yourself on this one, and say that it is going to take a little bit of time. But I think as long as if you're showing yourself compassion, I think that naturally starts to boost your self-esteem anyway.
I imagine that I know it's true of a lot of people anyway, but I imagine that a lot of people in early recovery find it very difficult to show themselves compassion, don't they?
Oh, totally. Yeah, and because you've been so down on yourself for so long, that it's almost foreign to feel good, to think anything good about yourself. And
I suppose in that situation, I suppose you've got to maximise, or you've got to try and focus on the things that are irrefutably positive. For example, you've got yourself into recovery.
Absolutely, and I'll come on to that as sort of as one of the points that you're alluding to there, but sort of just at the end of my list here, really. But it links back really to positive self-talk. If talking to yourself in a positive manner can help you to sort of refocus and put things in perspective, like you say. You are starting to make strides, and also it's that running dialogue that we've talked about before that you have in you're constantly in your head.
Shit FM.
We did an episode called Shit FM, which was exactly the opposite of this, really. How that will help to shatter your self-esteem when you're talking to yourself in a negative manner. So I think it's really important because I think a lot of us have probably used the phrase in our own heads yourself. Oh, I'm so stupid. Why do I always do that? And it puts yourself in a bad position mentally.
It's easier, I think, in that regard to try and treat yourself with some neutrality. If you're used to being down on yourself and very self-critical, moving from that to kind of bigging up yourself and telling yourself how great you are is often, for most people, too big a step. But what sometimes is more achievable is just not being so critical. It's just, giving yourself a little bit, cutting yourself a little bit of slack, not being quite so down on yourself. And if you can't think of anything super positive to say to yourself, well, at least don't beat yourself up because, you're doing the best you can, aren't you?
You are, and it goes back to that point that it isn't something that's going to happen overnight, and it is quite a gentle move. You're right, going from negative talk to neutral to it's like going through the gears, isn't it? You know, you're going
through some gear. Did you say? I don't want to do that if you're in recovery.
That would certainly mess up your self-esteem as soon as you come down off of that lot. Yeah, but you're just moving towards it, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I think, but you're right. It's that negativity. It's important to make this conscious choice to move to neutrality or to be more positive about yourself, even though it can sometimes feel a little bit forced at first. I think it can be a behaviour which you can sort of get used to. So if you start to talk positively about yourself, even if you don't believe it at first, it is a shift in mindset. You can gradually get on to that point where it does become your norm rather than constantly beating yourself up. Do you think that's good? Yeah,
try and, I mean, again, none of these suggestions are foolproof and quite hard to implement, but it's also worth thinking about how you talk to other people. And if you show other people a good deal more compassion than you're showing yourself, then that gives you at least an indication of the gap.
Yes.
You know, if you can be tolerant and patient with other people, why can't you do that with yourself? Okay, you might feel you've made a lot of mistakes and the past is, you know, you're carrying a lot of weight from the past. But in order to leave it behind, you're going to have to get to the point at some stage where you are able to forgive yourself and not shit talking yourself. It's quite an important step in the right direction.
It is an important step because I think it is, again, what if there's a dissonance between how you see yourself and how other people see you, that it can be, it takes a little bit of work sometimes to move. As long as you're surrounding yourself with the right people, obviously, if you're surrounding yourself with people that are being negative towards you, then it's going to keep you there and it's going to be more difficult. But if you are surrounding yourself with positive people and people that are being supportive, then there is a dissonance between the way they see you and the way you see yourself. So it's that move towards it, isn't it? But you're right. It's not an easy step to take, but it's something as soon as you're conscious of it and it's been pointed out to you that there is this dissonance, I think it is something you can start to make choices about.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the benefits of peer support, isn't it? Because largely the people around you are going to be supporting you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think if you're in that situation when you're in recovery and you're surrounded by other people who are similarly in recovery, maybe some with more experience, maybe some with less, you have to open your mind to believing the things that they're telling you.
Yeah.
You know, if you're super protective over your desire to beat yourself up all the time, then, you know, nothing anybody says is ever going to make any difference to you. But if you maintain an open mind and consider that there are, you know, perhaps things about you that you're not seeing, then being in that sort of peer support environment will really potentially help you.
Yeah, it does. And you've got to be aware also that can be quite the building of self-confidence and self-esteem can be quite fragile because you can easily get knocked back. And so it's you need the right people around you. You need the right network to start to build this self-confidence because it can easily be taken away from you again if you allow it to. You can start to build up a resilience, but again, that is a build-up rather than an instant fix. And another thing that often people say to themselves, and I used to do it all the time, was just consider myself as a failure. And you've got to remind yourself that failure, there's no such thing really. You might not have achieved the objective you set out to achieve initially, but it reminds me of the Nelson Mandela quote when he said, you know, I don't lose, I either win or I learn. And I think as a short quote, it's quite easy to remember. I think it fits in quite nicely there.
I'm glad you didn't try and do an impression of him.
That would have been probably been racist, but it would also been very difficult for me to pull off. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's right. And anyway, you know, even if you consider that you have failed at things that you've attempted in the past, it's worth asking yourself what you imagine you're going to achieve by holding on to that forever.
Onto that feeling.
Yeah. If you tell yourself, oh, I'm a failure, then in a sense, you are ensuring that you can't move forward, aren't you?
You do, and I think again, you can do things differently next time as well, can't you? It's a learning experience. So if you feel like something hasn't gone quite how you wanted it to, at least you've learned that next time you do it slightly differently.
Do you mean like with me and DIY? A
little bit. You've cracked on and done some, and you can do it after all.
Well, actually, I know I use that example a lot, but one of the reasons it's a good example is that what you're saying there is, if you consider yourself a failure, the likelihood is that you're not going to push yourself into areas where you feel you can fail. But if you don't do that, you're never going to build any sort of expertise, are you?
No, you're not. No.
And if you keep trying to do whatever it is that you're trying to do, and you have some success, then now you've got successes to point towards. You haven't only got failures to point towards. Now you've got a more kind of balanced view of yourself, which I think is quite important.
It is important. Your reference point shifts, and I think it is an important aspect. And you've got to understand also, going back to the DIY thing, you're not going to become an expert in something overnight. That I think we've got to move away from that thought.
Also, you don't have to be an expert.
No, you don't. You don't have to be.
You just have to. You have to feel like you can hit a level that is sustainable, and that it doesn't have to be something practical. It can be the way that you're living your life, the way you feel about yourself. You don't have to think you're the best thing ever. In fact, it would be much better if you didn't.
Absolutely right.
But what you do need to do is to feel as if you're deserving of your place in the world.
You're absolutely right. But I think that most people, even though you may not be an expert in some area, most people have a skill, a unique skill that I think you certainly in recovery you can start to reapproach again. You've left it behind, sadly, when you're in the madness. But I think you've got to remind yourself that, everyone has a unique skill that's valuable. It's just a matter of finding it, really, isn't it? And owning it and moving on with it. Everyone has a level of expertise, if we want to use that phrase again, in some areas.
Well, everybody has a uniqueness, don't they? I mean, you mentioned the word unique there, and I think that matters because, nobody does anything the way you do.
No, absolutely.
There's value in that, to me.
There is. Yes. Yeah, there is. And that leads on to the next point, really, about purpose. And we've done an episode on purpose, but you have to remind yourself you do have a purpose. There is a purpose for being here if you want to look at the bigger picture, but also it is finding out your purpose, certainly in recovery, is a joy. It really is. I think, in addition to staying sober, it gives you opportunity to figure out what the purpose is, it perhaps just in that moment, and also, going forward and actively pursuing that naturally starts to build your self-confidence. We've talked about it before, when people start to have got a certain amount of sobriety under their belt and moving on to help co-facilitate or start to facilitate the groups. Your self-confidence just grows. That grows really quickly when you do that. It did for me, and I've seen it happen for other people as well. So because suddenly you've got a purpose. And it is finding that purpose out of having a flat life where there is no purpose in, to actually even little achievements, little movements are really important, and they do feel massive, and they will boost your self-confidence, no doubt about it at all. But all the time you're thinking negatively and thinking you can't do anything, can't do this, you can't do that, you're going to stay where you are and you won't grow.
Yeah, true enough.
Do you think that's fair?
I do, absolutely. Good. Right. Yeah.
Good. I can move on to the next point, and then there's only two or three more about making healthy changes. Very straightforward, like improving your diet and your exercise regime, and being more consistent with it.
Yeah, I mean, these are straightforward things to do, and they're sometimes the things that people find the hardest.
Yeah, they are. But if you're aware that will give you a boost in your self-confidence, give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, those are good examples. You were talking earlier about, sometimes you might need to say things to yourself that you find it difficult to believe, sort of fake it till you make it type of thing. Yeah, and I think that's probably true to some extent, but I think it's even more important with stuff like this. You have to recognize that you don't get the benefit from looking after yourself better until you start looking after yourself better.
Yeah.
It's absolutely. Like when someone's in active addiction and they say, well, I'm going to stop drinking when I feel a bit better. Well, it's never going to happen then, is it? You're going to need to stop drinking before if you want to feel better, you're going to need to stop drinking. And so this is the same thing, isn't it? If you start to eat better, if you start exercising, if you start, connecting socially or whatever it might be, that's what starts to make you feel better. And once you start to feel better, you don't want to let go of it, do you?
No, you don't. No, that's right. And I think the next point was about forgiveness. And I think we've talked about this before, about forgiving other people that have perhaps wronged you in the past, or indeed forgiving yourself, which
That's
is
the big one.
It's the biggest one in recovery, where we've done some pretty horrid things and behaved in a way which we feel quite embarrassed about. But you have to forgive yourself. It isn't the past where it should stay. It's something which you've moved on from, and you're making positive strides to not do it again. But to forgive yourself, I found that most people have had the biggest trouble in doing that, and it takes a lot of time.
I think part of the reason for that is that sometimes you can get to the point where you feel as if you've forgiven yourself, and then you recognise, something happens in your life, or someone says something to you or whatever, and you recognise, oh, actually, I haven't really dealt with that. I haven't really finished with that. So I think that because that's part of, your kind of self-development is is a lifelong process.
Yes,
there's kind of always going to be something that's going to kind of crop up, and you think, oh, hang on, that's a bit of an open wound, or that's hit me at a particularly sensitive spot. And I think you have to be gentle with yourself when those sorts of things happen.
Yeah, you do. And if you constantly look at the past and beat yourself up about what you've done, again, it leads back to this negative self-talk that will hold you back. And yeah, it is difficult to forgive yourself, and it is sometimes difficult to forgive others. But once you practice it, and once you remind yourself that it's okay to forgive yourself, then you can start to move on from that. Because people will constantly, I find, in early recovery and in later stages as well, they will look back at those issues, and it can lead to relapse, because they makes them feel like they're a bad person for what's happened in the past, rather than dealing with it and owning it and moving on, and forgiving yourself. It takes practice, but it does work. And I've seen people that have been able to do that have progressed their recovery nicely. The last couple of points, really, well, setting goals, I think that came up in the research, just to give you something to strive for, give you a bit of structure. Achievable goals, obviously, is something that's outside of your realm, but to have goals, I think, is coming from a goalless world of when you're in the madness. Something where you can actually have you can look forward a little bit. You've got something that you can strive towards. It boosts your self-confidence when you do start to make strides. You start to do something, just something simple, like a lot of people just start to open their mail that's been left on the side for months. Just start to pay the bills, and the self-confidence starts to improve. Just when you're engaging in what seems to be normal activities for everyone else has been a real struggle for you. And just starting to engage in those things in early recovery starts to build your self-confidence up.
Yeah, I think, your goals have got to stretch you in some way.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
As you say, if you've left all your mail unattended and you haven't been paying your bills, then that is a goal that is going to stretch you. But I think you have to be kind of honest with yourself when you're setting yourself goals and objectives. And it has to be in that sweet spot between, this is quite tough for me, this is a bit uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that you think, no, I can't face it.
Yeah. Because
all that happens then is your confidence goes the other way, because you're kind of confirming to yourself that you're as bad as you feared that you might. So it takes a bit of thought, that I think, you need to be really clear about, this is hard for me, this feels uncomfortable, but I reckon I can do it. Try and pick the low-hanging fruit first.
You're absolutely right. And I think we've got to also remind ourselves that this is in our own hands. We can't look to have our self-confidence boosted by other people in the air and rely on that. Because I think as soon as you are, we've talked about it before, the search for validation, and you rush into an inappropriate relationship because you want to feel lovable and you want to build your self-confidence that you are. But you're putting that effectively in other people's hands, which is why, we advise against that in early recovery, rushing into something like that. So it is something, but it's down to you to deal with it. You can't just glean it from other people, because they will let you down as well. You can't rely on that.
Agreed.
The last one really was about practicing self-care. Really just an important fact, which we touched on, really, about making healthy changes But self-care, I think, is once you do start to do that, once you do start to make sure you have a bath bomb from time to time and go back to just the normality of how most people would live when you've sadly neglected it for months and probably years in the madness.
I suppose, I don't know, but I imagine if you're in recovery, working out self-care, so positive self-care, from what might feel like self-care but actually is a bit destructive, might sometimes be quite difficult. And that might take a bit of practice.
Yes.
So absolutely. For example, it might feel like self-care for you to not go out and do anything, pull the curtains and binge watch TV all day, eating crisps in your pants.
Yeah.
But that's probably not really self-care.
No.
That's not really. So when you're used to not really caring about yourself at all and not doing anything that is productive and helpful, it is quite a distance from there to living a life that's, full of positive self-care. So again, I think that's another example of an area that you just have to take small steps. You won't be able to do it. You won't do it right all the time. You just got to try and be on a kind of path of constant improvement if you can.
You avoided using the word journey there, but I think it is. But you're right. It's an evolutionary process. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. It is part of. It's an ongoing process that we can all do, whether if we've got addiction issues or not. But I think also it's nice just to take time and have a look at those little steps you've taken as well. Be grateful for those little steps that you've taken and how far that you've come. Remind yourself how far you've come before you can move on to the next step.
And what is the next step, Martin?
Well, the next step today is just talking about our gratitude list.
Oh, lovely. I wouldn't have guessed that.
No, I know. I slipped it in so gently that I can see it.
You built to a crescendo there.
I did, almost. So should we? That sort of wrapped it up, really. But gratitude, I think, is a mainstay of a lot of the stuff we talk about, and to remind yourself of the victories that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly important in maintaining confidence because the more you focus on the good things in your life, the less you're going to worry about the things that aren't so good, and they tend to be the things that shatter your confidence. Yes,
I agree.
So I think it's my go, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
So I'm grateful. I was grateful actually for a lovely day yesterday where I could get in the garden, get my hands in the earth, plant some seeds. So a simple thing, being in touch with the earth.
Oh, yeah.
I moved one of my ferns and I put two of my bamboos in the flower beds where I think they'll be happier than the pots they were in because they were looking a little bit bedraggled. So I feel as if I've done a good turn for them. I think they'll be happier.
They'll be grateful to you, won't they?
They will. I think they will be grateful. They won't speak their gratitude.
They won't.
But I'm hoping I will see it in their vigour.
In the way they behave going forward, growing wise.
Because you know what bamboos are like. Once they get going, they really kick on.
They do. They can sort of burrow right under your lawns and stuff. They can have massive roots, can't they?
I don't care about that, to be honest.
Okay, you got them in a pot. Or you got them out the pot?
No, they're in the garden now, but that's the sort of risk taker I am.
No, bamboos look great. That's why I think they are very good. And usually it's a good thing to be grateful for.
I'm a thrill seeker. I don't mind where my bamboos move their roots.
You're right. It's rock and roll lifestyle.
I'll deal with it.
But I was grateful the weather was nice yesterday. Certainly the sun was out. I walked down to there's the little toll house cafe down by the river.
I know you like that, yeah.
And it's a nice little walk down to there and along the river. So I did that. I walked in the sun yesterday.
Very nice.
Quite nice to get out and do that. But I'm grateful. I'm certainly grateful for my new car. Because I had my old car. It was nearly 20 years old. It was dropping into pieces basically, and the anxiety of jumping in it and not knowing if you're going to get to the end of the road was overwhelming. So it was nice to get a new car, but I was grateful to start to work out the new features on it, which I was really struggling with, to work out how to set the system up, the computer on it.
Like power steering.
Well, not quite that bad. I mean, it is not quite that basic. because it's all electronic these days, it's there's so much stuff on there.
Has it got a built-in sat nav?
Yeah, it's got all that sort of thing. But there's just a menu that I couldn't access that I was getting really stressy about. In fact, I'd rung the dealers and I was having a go at them, saying, I don't know how to do it, it's wrong. And I was going to get booked in for a diagnostic test on it. And then I worked out how I could actually access it anyway, but it wasn't straightforward. And so it's been a learning process, but I'm grateful that I'm starting to learn it and to utilize the features properly now. So I was grateful for that.
Lovely.
We used to have this little feature, didn't we? At this point, 100 things you should learn, and then we tried different lists. And you sent me a new list, which is 50 things that don't work. It's quite contentious, some of these, but I think it's quite good points. But the first thing that came up that struck my, it struck a bit of a chord, as things that don't work was multivitamin tablets.
Oh,
right. Now again, there's a lot. It's a massive industry, the whole vitamin supplement industry. And the multivitamin tablets, all the studies show they don't actually do any good. It's bizarre, isn't it?
You don't take them then? Do you take any supplements?
No. Do you?
No, I don't. No. Well, actually, I did last year. I took vitamin D. I think we're all vitamin D deficient because we don't get enough sunlight here.
Yeah.
What's the other thing that is quite good to take?
D2. I think we had some. I think when we go into recovery, we get filled with.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think thereby hangs a tail. I think you're probably better off taking supplements when you have a particular need for a supplement.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The latest one, I think, the big sort of thing these days is magnesium, isn't it? Everyone's taking magnesium glycinate.
Right. Okay.
To apparently it helps sleep and reduces anxiety and, I don't know, makes you better at football or something. I don't know.
If you have the correct diet, you shouldn't need these supplements, should you?
No, I think vitamin D is a pretty common one in a country like ours. So I don't think there's any harm in taking a vitamin D supplement, although I don't. Yeah, so multivitamins, nah.
No.
Don't think I'll bother, thanks.
Apparently they don't work, but that was one that caught my eye initially on the list. There'll be others. So just on this day in music, and mate, which year I've managed to change it this time. I didn't want to give you Wuthering Heights
again. Is it Wuthering Heights? Because it's 1978, if so.
See, everyone's going to remember that now. I'm going to remember that, Wuthering Heights, 1978.
I'm on a bit of a run because I'm not taking 5 points from last week, obviously. So I've done a 4 and a 3, haven't I?
You have.
So I'm kind of setting myself up a little bit for a fall here.
Well, no, we'll look at the year that a certain single was number one in the UK. Then,
okay, yeah.
Bridge Over Troubled Water, Simon and Garfunkel, massive single. Everyone knows the track. Do you know what year it was?
Yeah, that's tricky. I'm feeling it's early 70s. I might be going a bit early here, but the immediate year that came into my head was 1972.
No points, I'm afraid. 1970. It's just outside, just hit the post. Sorry, mate. It gives me no pleasure in delivering that news.
Yeah, you said that with a smirk. Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I wasn't wildly out.
No, you weren't. No,
that's not dented my confidence.
No, good. No, you need self-confidence. I think that when you got 4 points, it boosted your self-confidence.
It did, yeah. I felt like I was... unbeatable at this.
Okay, well, feel confident about this next one, all right?
Yeah.
We want to look at the year someone was born.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga. She's 28th of March is her birthday. So it's just gone by her birthday. So happy birthday, lady.
Happy birthday, Gaga.
Gaga. I can't remember what her real name is, but anyway.
I don't know either. Right.
28th of March, but what year?
I'm going to go 1987.
Oh, you get a point, mate. 86. So there we go. You've broken your duck.
That's good. That's okay. A point. That was tricky.
Yeah, it was.
That was tricky. I'm all right. I'm all right with a point there.
Yeah. No, you did.
I'm not going to get ideas above my station.
No.
Like a bit of Gaga. I didn't particularly like that meat dress she wore, but still.
That wasn't great. But you remember it, don't you? Which was what it was all about.
You wouldn't be able to wear it long term, would you?
No, you wouldn't. Not really.
I certainly wouldn't be able to wear it because the dogs would have it.
You'd be chased up and down the road, wouldn't you? All the dogs in the neighbourhood biting you, nipping at you.
I couldn't understand it because I know she's got dogs, so I don't know. She must have got ready in a different room when she put that on, mustn't she?
Yeah.
Because they'd have been going absolutely mad. Anyway.
It wasn't a great look, I must admit, but we all remember it.
Yeah.
No, there's another vocalist going into a dead supergroup.
Oh, right, we've got a bloody choir going on now.
I had to mention him because a personal hero, really. Do you know which year, at the age of 57, that Ian Dury died?
Oh, crikey. This is a long time ago.
27th of March.
This is longer ago than we think. How old was he?
He was 57.
Ian Dury. I'm going to say, I'm going to go I don't know why, I'm going to go 2002.
Oh, no points. 2000.
Oh, for goodness sake.
You've hit the post on a couple of questions there, but very close. You homed in quite well on that. I didn't realise, I'd forgotten it was that long ago, I must admit.
So he would have been, how old would he have been now?
Well, he was 57 when he died, so it's another 24 years on top of that.
So he'd been 81.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I had him late 70s. That's why I went where I did. But I'm not. I can't be too ashamed of that.
No, you can't.
I played a little bit like Brentford did last night. I did everything but score, didn't I? Of course, they did score.
It was a nondescript game until they went into injury time, basically, when they had 2 goals to score. And then,
Anyway, there we are.
We won't talk about football.
No.
And that's it, mate.
Good. Well, I'll wish you a happy Easter day.
And you, sir.
I hope all of our listeners had a good Easter and that you've still got some chocolate left, because if you haven't, then you've eaten it too quickly.
We're talking to them on Thursday, aren't we? Now?
Yeah, that's right. So if you've eaten all your Easter eggs already, or you didn't have any, so bad luck if you didn't have any.
Yeah.
Then you want to get yourself in hand a little bit.
You do.
Get yourself under control, because you've eaten that chocolate a bit too fast, haven't you? And I think you know it.
Yeah, you do it. It won't do your self-confidence any good.
Exactly. All right.
Thanks, mate. Laters. Bye.
All right. Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.